As the war in Ukraine continues, the potential impact on global agriculture and food continues to expand. U.S. Meat Export Federation Vice President of Economic Analysis, Erin Borror, offers a look at the short and long-term impacts of the conflict.
Again, on the red meat side, Russia, Ukraine, and Belarus combined, I think, exported maybe around 60,000 tons of beef to China. So there is a little bit of red meat trade that gets interesting. But where it really matters is on the feed side. And so Ukraine is, let's see, the number 3 corn exporter, number 2 barley exporter, number 1 sunflower exporter, and number 5 on wheat. And Russia has been the largest wheat exporter. And so there's obviously growing concern about feed availability, especially in Europe, of which Ukraine is 40% of EU imports of corn, barley, and wheat. And for example, China, Ukraine is about 23% of those same imports. So on the feed side, there's real concern about availability, because not only are we worried about this crop that should be planted right now, but also the grain in storage that was still to be exported for the rest of this crop year. And those exports are not going out of the Ukrainian ports right now. They're working to try to do some grain trade by rail into Europe, but basically you're looking at product that's still yet to ship, not going, and then real questions about the current crop and whether Ukraine can get it in the ground.
That uncertainty in the feed supply could prompt further reductions in European hog production.
So Europe has already been reducing their herds, and if we recall, Europe's pork prices have been under pressure going all the way back to ASF in Germany, so September of 2020. Prices were in decline before that, and then that really exacerbated a downturn in Europe's pig prices. And then you had China demand essentially evaporating last summer, so mid of 2021. And so European producers were losing money, and that's before we see war in Ukraine. So in December, their pig inventory was down 3%, sow inventory was down 3.6%, and steep decreases in Germany specifically, which is again the combination of ASF and additional animal welfare and environmental regulations and costs that have been impacting those producers. And so there's contraction underway already in Europe. And then you add on even higher feed costs and real concerns about availability. In the very immediate situation, we've seen those European pig prices jump by like 35% over the past month. And we're starting to close that gap where we have been at a premium, US has been at a premium to Europe since March of 2021, and that's not normal. Usually we're the lower cost producer and thus lower price. And we've been out of whack for over a year now.
The impacts on global food systems will likely stretch beyond this growing season.
It's not going to be short term, so they should be planting now. I've heard completely mixed reports on how that may or may not progress, but we also know there's port infrastructure damage. We know there's concern about ships not wanting to sail into a war zone, so you have both likely limited production, likely curtailed exports out of Ukraine, tight global balance sheets even before this. So on the feed side, it looks, yes, to be significant and something that's going to last at least into next year, if not the next year. And then you have all these knock-on effects of what inflation does in these economies, and especially in the more developing countries, and the concern about, again, food availability and pricing and the ripple impacts across the world.
For more on the U.S. Meat Export Federation and our work around the world, visit usmef.org.